right. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Happy Wednesday. Welcome to our new feature, the Broward Center's Broadway Chat Series. My name is Tammy.
And I'm Tim.
And we are so excited that you have joined us today. This is a new series that we've created where we find amazing performers and amazing folks who are connected with Broadway shows, Broadway community, and we just get together and chat. So I was in New York for about 20 years and was able to really learn a lot about Broadway. And I know that if you're interested in the Broward Center, that you love Broadway shows too. So I think you're really going to enjoy our guest that we have for you today. What do you think, Tim?
I think so too.
All right. So we're going to go right to our special guest today. This is not only a fabulous performer, he is also one of our amazing students at the Broward Center and the Rose Miniachi Arts Education Center. I want you to give a big Broadway Chats welcome to Mr. Jay Hendrix. Woo!
Hi.
Hi, Jay. How are you doing?
Before we start asking some questions, any viewers out there, just know that if you comment on the stream, we'll be taking your questions live soon. So you can start populating them right now.
That's it. So Jay and I, we're going to chat for a little bit, and then we want to hear from you. So Jay, how are you doing today?
I am doing good today. How are you doing today, Miss Tammy?
I'm good. Thank you for being our very first guest for our Broadway Chat series.
Thank you so much. I am very honored to be the first guest, so I'm super excited.
Well, awesome. So let's just start chatting a little bit about the Broadway shows that you've done. You had a really busy year, and you performed in 2 performances. Now, Broadway shows are primarily in New York, but they also are on tour and they also are regional. So tell us about the tour and the regional production that you got to be part of this year.
Well, this year in 2019, I was gone for about 7 months of the year, and I did 2 shows. The first one was at Goodspeed Musicals, which is in East Haddam, Connecticut, and that was because of Winn Dixie. And then the second one was the Christmas Story National Tour, where I played Flick. So
Flick. Now, which one is Flick? Which one of the characters is Flick in the Christmas Story?
Flick is the character. I don't know if you guys have seen A Christmas Story, but Flick is the character that gets his tongue stuck to the flagpole because Schwartz triple dog dared him. So he has to stick his tongue to the flagpole and it gets stuck. So that, yeah.
So you had to do that every night?
I did do it. Yeah, I had to actually stick my tongue to the flagpole every night. And matinees. So
how did that work on stage? Was there some stage magic to make it look like your tongue was stuck?
Well, believe it or not, for the Broadway show, they had a little hole in the pole, and there was like a suction air thingy inside the pole, and so Flick's tongue would be actually kind of suctioned to the pole, but not so much that it was actually stuck. He could still get it off, obviously. But with the tour, there was a pole, and there was no hole. There was nothing. I just stuck my tongue to the pole. And I had the thing like this with my pole. So
you had a song. That's amazing. Very cool. Well, so that was the national tour. What was it like being on tour? So how many nights would you stay in a particular town? And what was it like traveling all over? What are some of the best places you visited while on tour?
Well, we went to 8 cities while on tour. We went to Sacramento, California, Yakima, Washington, Boise, Idaho, Palm Desert / Palm Springs, California, Reno, Nevada, Salt Lake, Utah, Arkansas, and New Orleans, Louisiana. And traveling all around those places, it was mostly a West tour, kind of. It was actually the 6th year that this tour had gone out, so they have to hit new places every year.
Okay.
So it was really fun traveling on tour, especially because it was my first tour, and so I was like, it was just such a new experience, and I had a bunch of fun, and it was just awesome. So.
Do you guys travel did you drive in your own car? Were you on a bus? Did you fly? How did you get from city to city?
Well, most of the time, I think probably like 6 out of the 8 times. We all took the bus. Our longest bus ride was actually 13 and a half hours.
Oh.
And that was just insane. It was just completely insane. And then sometimes we would fly. If you wanted to, you had the option to not take the cast bus and just buy your own plane tickets and fly, just because you didn't want to take a very long bus ride. So, but there was one time, I don't remember where it was from what to what, but where the whole cast took a plane. That was really fun. And so, yeah, bus, sometimes plane, but mostly bus.
All
And
right.
what was it like having to do the show so many times? Have you ever performed a show with that many performances within a run? And what was that like for you?
Well, yes, I did, because of Winn Dixie was before A Christmas Story, and because of Winn Dixie actually had 84 shows, and Christmas Story had 54 shows. So I did have a little bit of experience doing a bunch of shows, but with Winn Dixie and Christmas Story, since they both had a ton of shows, it was just like every single time you do the show, even though it may not be your first time doing it, it's the audience's first time seeing it. So you have to do it like it's your first time, so that they all feel like, they are actually getting the experience, and it's not just you do this every night,
Right.
So,
That's
yeah.
neat. So did you travel all around the country by yourself?
Oh, no, definitely not. I had my wonderful mother, my mom. She came around with me. For some of the kids, they had parents that would switch out in different cities. But for there were 12 kids, probably 5 out of the 12 kids, they had one parent that stayed with them the whole time through. And my mom was one of those parents. So, yeah.
Very cool. So that was some fun stuff about your tour. Now let's talk about doing a regional production. Talk to us a little bit about the show you did at Goodspeed. Tell us a little bit about Goodspeed Opera House, and then just tell us about the show Because of Winn Dixie.
Well, the Goodspeed Opera House is a regional house in East Haddam, Connecticut, and they are a pretty known regional house, and they have sent, I think it was 26 shows to Broadway, 26 Broadway shows that people have seen started out at the Goodspeed Opera House, and they launched them over to Broadway. And so that's the Goodspeed Opera House, and specifically because of Winn Dixie, as some of you know, is a store. It's like a grocery store, Winn Dixie. And so it starts out, there's this dog running around in the store, and this girl named Opal walks into the store, and she sees this big, really huge dog running around the whole store, knocking everything over, hugging the manager and knocking him over. And so everybody says, "Whose dog is this? Whose dog is this? Why is this dog in our place?" And Opal says, "That's my dog," when it's actually not her dog. But she adopts the dog from the store, and she names the dog Winn Dixie. And so it's called Because of Winn Dixie, because Winn Dixie basically brings the whole town together, and that is the plot of the story. So
very cool. Now, who did you play in that show?
I played Stevie Dewberry, one of the Dewberry boys. Because of Winn Dixie, you may have heard of it because it is actually a movie and a book. But it's a really famous kids book that it's required reading for a lot of 3rd and 4th grade schools, where everybody in the school has to read the book. And so when we were doing the show, some people that would come to the show would say, "Oh my God, when my daughter heard that this show was there, she was like, oh my God, I know that book, I want to go see it." So, yeah.
So now, this was a brand new show.
It was.
That was being developed to move to Broadway, and A Christmas Story was a tour that had been repeated over and over again for, you said, the 6th time. So talk to me a little bit about what it was like working on a production in development for a move to Broadway.
Yes. So because of Winn Dixie, it was Nell Benjamin, Duncan Sheik, and John Rando. And John Rando was the original Broadway director of Beetlejuice and stuff. And so it was this amazing team. And because of Winn Dixie, everyone was there every single day of rehearsal, changing the script. Every day we would come in, we would have a little cubby with all these new pages of script. And one day, they had 2 new characters. We walked in and we looked in our cubbies, and there was oh my God, there's 2 new characters in the show now. And so that was really interesting since also it was my first professional show. And so that's a very unique experience. So I had to make sure I didn't get used to that happening. But yeah, and there was also one more time when the preacher, he came in and they said he was going to have a number in the opening, but he didn't actually get his number until like the night before Tech Week. And so
Oh, wow.
we learned it all in this one night and then go into Tech doing the number. And it was just so interesting. Yeah.
That was it.
Did you get to act with the dog at all? And what was that like?
Yes, the dog, he was a very important part of the show. He was the lead of the show, obviously, and he was amazing, and he was a really major aspect of the rehearsal process, because it's not like all of the people actors were just doing it and then it was like dog insert, because since the dog was like the main character, he was almost in like every scene, and so it was really important to have him every day of the rehearsal process. And his wonderful trainer, Bill Berloni, is a really amazing dog trainer, and he actually has been working with Goodspeed for a very, very, very long time. And he actually launched Annie. Annie started at the Goodspeed Opera House and then moved to Broadway, and he trained the original Sandy on Broadway. And when Annie moved from Goodspeed Opera House to Broadway, the only actor that stayed with it for the move was Sandy, the dog. So,
Are you serious?
yeah.
That's a fun Broadway fact. I love it. Very cool. All right, Jay. So it sounds like you have had an amazing year. Talk to me a little bit about how you auditioned and how you had to prepare as a performer for these auditions. And when you got the jobs, how did you prepare and how did you take care of yourself as a performer to do a good job in these performances?
Well, in 2019, I did Because of Winn Dixie and A Christmas Story, and they were pretty different audition processes. For A Christmas Story, I had actually already auditioned the year of 2018, which was its 5th time going out, and I was auditioning for Ralphie, which was the main character in the show, and I got very close, and I didn't get it. And when preparing for that, that was my first professional audition in 2018 for that tour, and so it was really all new for us. But basically, for the audition process, you get okay. Let me start over. So there is acting like websites and apps, and that's when different casting directors send out what's called casting calls, and sometimes it's only through agents, and sometimes it's through like just anyone can audition. And so you find out what the scenes, or it's called sides, which is like a short scene or like a small part of a scene, and you learn it, and then sometimes it's either in person or you do a self-tape. And so for Because of Winn Dixie, that was when I auditioned for that. We flew out to New York, and that was an in-person audition. And we did the first audition, and they called me back that same day for a callback and a dance callback. And so then I think it was like probably like a week later after the dance callback, that we find out that I got the role. And so once I got the role, obviously, I don't think we got the script for this one until we actually got into rehearsal for the first day. So
Okay.
when we got to rehearsal, everyone got their scripts, and we all met everyone. We met the dogs, which was a big thing because they were there the first day.
Mhm.
And we looked over the script, highlighted all of my lines, highlighted all the solos, all of the singing stuff, and then I just went through learning it. And so the audition process, yeah.
That's very cool. Now, Jay, I'm going to ask you a question. How old are you?
I'm 11 years old.
Or 11 years old. Was it scary walking into a New York audition room and auditioning for this national tour?
For the national tour, it was definitely scary. I walked in, I was definitely scared. I was going over all my lines in my head, going over all of the songs, and I was like, oh my God, what if I forget a line? Oh my God, and it was definitely scary. But I just learned that it's not like I'm the only one who's feeling this. Everybody always has a little nerves, and that is something that never goes away. You're always going to be just a little nervous before you go into an audition, but
Yep.
you need to learn how to handle that. And so now I know, like when you go into an audition, don't be stressing out. Just relax and focus. You're not going to forget your lines. You're not going to forget the lyrics of a song. And you just do it, and it's great. So
I love it.
You use some of those lessons when you perform as well? Is it the similar type of nerves?
Wait, what was that?
Can you use some of those lessons about how to harness your nerves for auditions for your performances as well?
Yes. So especially the opening night for the tour, but mainly the opening night of the tour, it was really scary because we'd been doing tech and it was like all these really insane hours. And so opening night was really, really scary. And it was a really different situation because with tour, you go to like many different cities. And so for me, our first city, which was Sacramento, California, I was really nervous that first time. And I was just thinking, listen, Jay, you did the audition, you booked the role, and that already says something. You've been practicing your lines, you've been going through everything in your head, you've been in this rehearsal process for like a month, you know what you're going to do, and you're not going to mess up. And then you just go out on there and be amazing. And lesson.
I love that lesson. So Jay, tell us a little bit about your training. Like, where did you get all these amazing skills that you used in these performances?
Well, I took my first acting class when I was 4 years old, and that class was called Little Shakespeare's, and that was at the University Center for the Performing Arts, and that is when I learned the basic, super duper ooper fundamentals of acting. I learned how to do something called slate, which is when you go into the room and before you do anything, you say, "Hi, I'm Jay Hendrix. I'm 11 years old. I'm from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I'm with the Carson Adler Agency." So I learned how to do that. And then I took my first class with you, Miss Tammy, which was act when I was 7 years old. And that is when I really started my training because I started to learn how to use my voice and my diaphragm and obviously dance. I started learning how to dance, and then acting also, and lines and diction and pronunciation. And so that's when I learned all that. And then now, more recently, I've been taking a bunch of dance classes like hip hop, ballet, tap, jazz, and that's all come in super handy with this. So
that's good. Because what kind of dance did you have to do on the tour that you got really good at really fast?
Well, for the tour, there was a lot of tap dancing, and the only character in the entire show that does not tap is Ralphie. So when I auditioned for the tour in 2018, I had not taken a single tap class in my entire life, and so it was Ralphie or bust. That's what me and my mom would say. It was Ralphie or bust for that year. And I got to the final callbacks for Ralphie, but I was too short for the role, and I was too tall for Randy, and Randy taps also. So tap is a major aspect of the tour. So once that happened, 2018, I was like, okay, I have to really practice tap because now I already know what it's like. I know what some of the dance moves are since I did them for the audition. So I just need to focus and take tap and focus. And so I took tap for that 1 year. I came back in 2019 feeling strong with tap. And I almost forgot, when I auditioned for the tour, I hadn't put on my tap shoes for 3 months still because I didn't put on my tap shoes once because of Winn Dixie. But I just tried to remember. I was doing some moves, trying to remember the tap routine from last year. And then I went in and I booked a role that wasn't Ralphie. And that just shows in 1 year, you can go from never taking a single tap class to having tap skills to book a role on a national tour that requires tap. And so it required a lot of tap, and I was confident. So
well, I got to tell you, I saw the tour in New Orleans, and when you busted out front and center that big tap number, I was like, because I knew your tap history, and I knew that it was something that you were developing. I was so impressed with how strong your tap skills got. And that just goes to show with dedication and really, really specific goals, you can get it. That's awesome. So what's next, Jay? What you got coming up next?
Well, I did have ragtime, but the day before tech started, very close to tech, because of coronavirus, COVID-19, they had to end rehearsals. But I am playing Little Boy or Edgar in ragtime at the Broward Center with Slowburn Theater Company, and that is been rescheduled for next March of 2021. And so that is what's next up for me. Hopefully COVID-19 is done by then.
Yeah, right. I look forward to seeing you in that. Well, how are you keeping all your skills fresh during this quarantine time?
Well, I've taken some voice lessons for certain auditions, and the University Center for the Performing Arts, that's where I take all of my dance classes, and they have done a really great job of putting everything into virtual. And so I'm still taking all of my same dance classes, same schedule. I still take hip hop, tap, and jazz, and I'm still taking piano. I've been taking piano lessons, and he switched that to virtual also. So pretty much I'm just doing everything virtual to keep my skills going and not forget anything.
I love it. Good for you. So what would be, if there's some young performers out there, or even some older performers out there watching our Broadway chat today, what would be your wisest words of advice for how to be successful as a Broadway performer?
Well, my wisest words of advice, let's see. There are many, many wise words out there. I think my wisest words of advice is you need to focus, and if you have dedication and you really want to do this, you will succeed. If you're focusing and this is something that you really, really want to do, then nothing can stop you from getting to where you want to go. So as long as you focus, stay dedicated, you will get there. So that's my wise words.
That's good advice, and we're certainly proud of your accomplishments, Jay. So we're going to start taking some questions from the audience, Tim. But before we do, if we want to follow your career and follow what's going on, how can we find you on social media?
Well, I am on Instagram at Jay Hendrix Official, and that is my official account. So I post if I have auditions, I do some behind the scenes. If we're going to New York for auditions, which we won't be doing now because of coronavirus, I post it there. And so that is how you can keep up with me on Instagram, Jay Hendrix Official.
All right, Jay Hendrix Official. Make sure you follow him. So, Tim, what kind of questions do we have from our friends out there watching right now?
Yeah, well, we have a lot of fans that are just saying hi. We have a lot of great questions as well. We have a couple about when you were on tour and how you kept up with your schoolwork. So we have Sherry Schneider asked, did you have school? And a similar question, this is actually a question from my mom, Elaine Maines. She asked, does a tutor travel with you? So could you talk a little bit about how you kept up with your school on tour?
Yes. Well, on the tour, the way it works is they need to have one tutor for every 10 kids. And on the Christmas Story tour, there were 12 kids. So we had 2 tutors, and basically every day, maybe not every day, but like most days, except for weekends, we would have a set time block where we would go to a special like conference room in the hotel, and because all the kids stayed in the same hotel and stuff wherever we would travel, and we would all just go, and the tutors would be there to help us, but everybody would just be working on their own schoolwork on their computer. And so that's how we kept up with school. And yeah.
That's wild. So how did it did you study with other kids, or were you by yourself? How was the classroom set up?
Well, the classroom setup was they would basically have like a couple tables, like maybe 3 or 4 tables, and you could basically just sit wherever you want. And we wouldn't work with the other kids because the other kids would they would be doing different things in school than we were. But I was just working on my school, my science, my world history, my language arts, or my pre-algebra, and I would just focus, try not to get distracted. And we would have blocks, like just a 4-hour block where we would do an hour, 5-minute break, an hour, 5-minute break, an hour, 5-minute break, 45 minutes, and then that'd be it. And so on the 5-minute breaks, we could basically do whatever we want. Sometimes there'd be a vending machine, and we could ask the tutor if we could go to the vending machine. We would just go down there. And so, and we could do anything on the 5-minute breaks. But then when we were focused, we had to be focused, and we were not allowed to be talking. And so that's how we got all our work done.
So did you do school all day and then maybe a rehearsal, and then you would have to do the show at night? Were there some days like that?
Yeah, there were some days where like in the morning, maybe school would start at like 11, and it'd be like 11 to 3 schoolwork, and then like a rehearsal, and then like the evening show. And so there were some days like that. And this kind of ties in with 3 show days. We actually had some 3 show days where we definitely did not have time for school on those 3 show days. And we had 3 show days on tour. One was in Reno, one was in Salt Lake City, and one was in New Orleans. And it would basically be like 10 a.m., 1 p.m., like 5 p.m. or something, and it would just be insane. The main problem with that, not problem, but like the main thing that everybody would always talk about is, okay, when are we gonna get a meal? We've got a half-hour break here to grab some lunch or some brunch or some dinner or anything. Just get some food between here and then come back, and then those were crazy.
Those are crazy. So, Tim, do you have any more questions?
We do, yes. John is asking that he's heard for young Broadway stars there's something called a wrangler. What is that?
A wrangler, a child wrangler, is for if there is kids in a regional show, Broadway show, national tour. If there's kids, there will most likely be a child wrangler. And the job of the child wrangler is to basically wrangle, no, they don't wrangle all the kids. The main job of the child wrangler is to make sure all the kids know where they're going. The child wrangler may be like in the room, not like where the dressing rooms are, but like outside of the dressing room saying, Jay, you've got 1 more minute to change, and then we're gonna go up for this scene. And then they would always know exactly where you are at all times, since you're children, and that's why they're there. They're just there to help. And so that's what the child wrangler is there for.
All right.
Yeah.
Another question here. Quinn wants to know if you're ever able to meet any kids from other touring shows when you were traveling for A Christmas Story.
Well, was I ever able to meet other kids? Well, when you're on tour, obviously, if like A Christmas Story was at Boise, Idaho at this one time, and we're at this theater, there's not going to be multiple shows going on at the same theater because they have all the set and stuff, and that would just be very hard. And so I don't really think I got to like really meet any other kids from the tours, because wherever we would go, like different tours would be in different places. So, yeah.
Our next question here, in Ragtime, you get to open the show.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, being on stage all alone and uttering the first words of dialogue? It must be exciting and nerve-wracking.
Yeah, so for Ragtime, sadly we did not get to perform before coronavirus shutdown started. But in rehearsals, I would start the show, the curtains would open, and I would be the only one on stage, and I had this piano next to me, and the first couple notes, I would pretend that I'm playing them on the piano, and then doo-doo-doo, and then I'd turn around and start the show. And that was a little nervous, but since I never actually performed, I don't know, like for that, I haven't like started a show like that before, so I don't exactly know what that's like since I haven't actually performed it. But it was interesting because like everyone is off stage and I'm just like alone on stage, so I had to make sure like I was doing okay, and it was.
That's amazing.
We have another question here. This is from my niece and nephew, actually, Adeline and Hayden. They want to know what your favorite part of performing on Broadway is, performing in Broadway shows.
My favorite part of performing on the national tour or because of Winn Dixie was probably, for the tour, my favorite part, and this is specific to the show, but it is for A Christmas Story, unlike Because of Winn Dixie, for A Christmas Story, I had a bunch of other kids. There were 11 other kids my age, all of them between the ages of 9 or turning 10 on tour to 13. And it was just really fun because I think there were 7 other boys and then 4 girls. And it was just really fun because we were all friends like immediately because we had to be since we were all in rehearsals together. And so that was really fun having all those friends. Whereas Winn Dixie, there were 4 other kids and then 4 understudies, and the 4 other kids, none of them were like my age, and so that was a little different. But I had my mom and I was friends with the other boy who was 16 years old, and we shared a dressing room together. So my favorite part of Christmas Story was all the friends, but like for mainly like that doesn't just apply to this show, like for all of Broadway, my favorite part of that show would probably be, I don't know, actually. I don't know, because I feel like with Christmas Story, it was so specific because there were so many other kids, so most of my best memories were with the kids. So that was probably my favorite part.
I love it. That's a great thing because it is about the community and the relationships that we build as performers. So, Jay, this time has flown by. We are out of time. But thank you so much. Oh, I love it. So there is
a little link to your Instagram to round out the show.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Good, good, good. So thank you so much for spending time with us, chatting about your Broadway shows experience. We look so forward to what you're going to be doing in the near future and as your career advances. And, you know, we are going to see a lot of amazing things from you, my friend. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much. This was so fun, guys. Thank you.
Yay. Bye, Jay. All right, Tim, that wraps it up for our first.
That was fun.
That was fun.
Yeah, some great lessons.
So Jay's very cool. So we want to encourage everybody to check us out. Keep following the Broward Center Facebook page, the Broward Center Education Facebook page. If you haven't liked it or followed it, go do it right now. We're almost to 1,000 followers. So let's see if we can get 1,000 today after this broadcast. So Tim and I are going to continue to bring fun and exciting guests on week after week. So follow us, and you know, we love your questions. Thank you for chiming in. So thanks for hanging out with us today.
Thank you. We'll see you later. We'll chat with you soon.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.